welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the book club book of the month for May, and it was Lovely War by Julie Berry. And as you guys know, I was so excited to read this book. I really truly thought I was going to absolutely adore this book. This book is a very heavy romance book set in World War I, and I love historical romance. There's just something about it that I think is just precious. Like, one of my favorite weird things to do is look up like old photos of like wartime romance, because I just think it's so cute. I love it. So I thought for sure I was absolutely going to adore this book, and I also thought the Greek gods and goddess thing was going to be really interesting as well, because Aphrodite, Hephaestus, is that how you pronounce it? Hephaestus? Apollo and Eris were all in here, and it was kind of like the framework of the story. So I thought that was going to be really fascinating as well. And most people that have read this book absolutely adore it. Like, this book has had rave reviews. I feel like I have a little bit of an unpopular opinion with this book, which is weird because I did not think I was going to have an unpopular opinion, because normally I absolutely love any romance that I get my hands on. I just really like romance in books. But this one, for some reason, didn't grab me as much as I thought it was going to, and I actually ended up giving this book a 3 stars. I think that's what I'm going to rate it, 3.5 maybe. And that's very surprising to me, because I thought it was going to be a 5-star for sure. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys think of it and what you guys thought of it, and if any of you guys kind of feel the same way as me, because I feel like I'm definitely in the minority here, and so it's a little bit weird. But I'm going to start off with the positives, because I do think that there was so many positives with this book. I just think that it didn't resonate with me personally, which sometimes just happens. Like, you can have an amazingly written novel, but it just doesn't work for you for whatever reason. And I think that that was the case with this book, because I will 100% say that this book is extremely well done and extremely well written. It just didn't tug on those emotional strings for me, or those strings where it really just like grabs you and attaches you to the characters. So Julie Berry is an amazing writer. You can tell that she really thought this through, that she really educated herself on many aspects of this novel. It comes across as it's simple, but there's elements to it that are very profound without being pretentious, which I think makes amazing writing. Like, I feel like with this book, it's one of those books where you learn a lot about history, you learn a lot about like the Greek gods, and you just get a lot of really interesting information while also being kind of engrossed in the story, which I think is the best way to learn, is when you can attach yourself to characters. It almost makes it a little bit easier for you to soak in some of that information, and I really think that she did a good job with that, kind of balancing those two things. I just think that this book really showed her skill in writing, and I think that she's a fantastic writer. So let's go ahead and talk about the things that I loved about the characters. So one character that I absolutely loved and I thought she did a really good job with was Aphrodite. So Aphrodite, I felt like, was a very complex and unique character, and I really liked the way that she portrayed her. She kind of had like this strong aspect to her. She was intelligent, she was strong, but she also had a side of softness. She understood people's emotions. She was passionate. She was passionate about love. She had a very good balance to her, and I felt like she was like very layered, which I really appreciated with Aphrodite. It made me very interested in her. And honestly, when reading this, I was like, man, I could have a book just fully about Aphrodite from this book. I just thought she was a very interesting character, and I could have read an entire book just about her. And another thing I noticed is I loved the way she wrote every character in this book. She was really good at creating every character to be unique in their own way. I never felt like she made them one-dimensional. I never felt like any of the characters were really stereotypical, and because of this, I felt like each relationship was very unique in its own way. I never felt like I was reading like the same character, which was really nice. I really like that. She's really good at writing unique, multi-dimensional characters. However, I didn't love the side characters. So like James's, friends that he was with while he was at war, I never felt connected to those characters at all, and I never was able to really tell them apart. Like, there was, I think, like 5 characters that he was kind of at war with and that he became friends with. They were like brothers, but I never really could tell them apart really. I kind of was like, should I try to like separate these characters individually in my head, or is it not very important? Like, she's not giving them too many attributes to tell them apart. And so when James's friend died and he had to go visit, you know, his wife, I never felt that connection to that character because for some reason I never felt like I needed to create a connection to that character. Like, she didn't give me anything about that side character that made me feel like I needed to attach myself to him. I felt like I needed some more information on that character. I needed to know that he was going to be an important role later on in the book. And I kind of felt like that with a lot of the side characters. So I kind of feel like in that sense, I struggled, but like the main characters were really, really well done. So I also really liked the depiction of love during wartime. I thought she did such a good job at making it realistic, but making it hopeful, but showing the hard aspects and the sadness. And I also loved how she showed like PTSD, grief, and depression in such a real way without feeling like she was forcing it on you. She did it in a way that we could all understand, we could all relate to, but it wasn't forceful, but it was very real. I also really loved Aubrey's perspective. I think it was so great that she was able to put him into the story and show what you know, World War I was like for an African-American soldier. The book didn't shy away from showing like the discrimination and the injustice that Black soldiers dealt with at the time, and I thought that she did a really good job at portraying that while also, again, keeping it pretty hopeful and, you know, showing it in a very real way for educational purposes, but also showing the difficult aspects of what it was like to be a person of color during World War I. I thought it was such an important character for the novel, and his relationship with Colette was such an amazing story to read, and I loved reading their story. It was just so cute, and it was just, I loved it. I also loved the slow build of James and Hazel's relationship. I just thought it was so sweet, and I thought it was just a very true to the times. It had a very naive, sweet, endearing quality to it, which I really loved, and their relationship to me was just amazing. I loved it. There was some parts in it where I was kind of like, oh, I wish their communication would just be a little bit better, but at the same time, I think, like I said, she did such a good job at showing mental illness and PTSD that I was able to say, you know, but they are struggling with a lot of different things at the time, and so I understand why they're not communicating as well as they could be. So in that sense, I think she did a good job at making me understand the lack of communication, because lack of communication is one of my biggest pet peeves, but she was able to do it in a pretty good way in this book to where I understood why it was happening. So I don't want to go on too long with this book because I feel like my last book club book talk video was like really long. I think it was like 22 minutes, and this video does not need to be 22 minutes long. So I want to talk about kind of why I ended up giving this book 3 stars, even though I have so many amazing things to say about it, obviously. For some reason in this book, I was bored. And I just couldn't figure out why I was so bored and why I was unable to really, truly connect with these characters, especially through like the first, I would say, 2/3 of it. I just couldn't fully connect, and I have no idea why that was. I absolutely loved the ending. I thought the ending had such amazing qualities. It was interesting. There was a lot going on with, you know, Hazel's accident and all that kind of stuff. Like, everything kind of started to come together, but I feel like the first 2/3 of this book, it was very much just mundane things. To a certain degree, I would say about 2/3 of the way, and I was like, where are we going here? Like, I don't really feel like anything is happening. Like, we're learning about these characters and their story and how they're falling in love, but there's no actual plot, really. It's just about love during wartime. And so I kind of felt like I couldn't find the motivation to pick up this book. This book took me like 3 weeks to read because I was having such a hard time picking it up and continuing to read it because nothing was really grabbing me about the plot line. And I couldn't ignore that fact because it was a difficult book for me to read. I even posted on Goodreads how this book doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat. I was just having a hard time picking up this book. And as cute as I thought the romances were, I just wasn't connecting. And I think maybe part of the reason is because I didn't sit down and read like huge chunks of this book in one sitting, which I think can help with connections to characters, is if you read, you know, a lot of it in one sitting, but I just didn't do that with this book. I was just literally reading like tiny little increments like throughout my weeks, and it just didn't do it for me in that regard. And so I found at the end, when I should have been getting very emotional, like I knew that these parts were very sad and I should be getting more emotional, but I wasn't. I hate that feeling when you're like, I feel like I should be caring more, but I just don't really that much. And so I couldn't ignore that fact that I was bored actually through a lot of this novel, which I hate to admit, but it was true. However, one thing that I do think about this book is it would make an amazing movie. Like, you know those books that you know would be just as good in movie form as they would be in book form? Kind of like The Notebook. Like, The Notebook is such a good movie. I absolutely love that movie. I've never read the book, but it just is such a good movie. And it's probably just as good of a movie as the book is. Like, it just makes a good movie. This, I feel like, is the same way. If this was made into a movie, it would be phenomenal, and I would love it. And I think it's just because in a book like this, where it's very slow-paced and kind of looks at people's life and just how their life is moving along, having those visuals can really help with interest. And I think that's kind of what I was missing here, was some of those visuals that just is very descriptive in the book, but they don't need to describe it in visuals, so you're not getting like those very long, drawn-out, mundane parts, if that makes sense. So I think this book should be a movie. I think it would make a fantastic movie. And another thing that kind of threw me off a little bit, and I don't know why, it was the end with Aphrodite and Hephaestus and how she was trying to get him to accept her love. I thought that was very interesting, to be honest, and I thought it was a very cool way for her to tie everything together, and that was like the whole point of her telling the story to begin with. But at the same time, for some reason, I felt underwhelmed by it. And I don't know if it's because we didn't get enough of the gods in this book for me to really care. But at the end, I was just like, okay, that's cool. She's trying to get Hephaestus to accept her love and all of that, but I just didn't have the tie to Aphrodite and Hephaestus like I should have. And I think if I did, I would have appreciated the ending just a little bit more, and I wouldn't have been so underwhelmed by it. So overall, I guess my review is very well done book, very well written book, educational, just overall a good book. And I can confidently say, like, writing wise, I think that this book could be like a 4, even a 5-star, but entertainment wise, it just wasn't in the 4 or 5-star range for me. And I read for entertainment. You know, I read because I want to be either very, very interested or very, very entertained. And I didn't get that entertainment value from this book like I get from other books, but I can say amazingly well done book. So it's kind of, I'm torn when it comes to that kind of thing. So anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this book. Did you absolutely adore it? Are you kind of like me, where you can appreciate this book for what it is, like fully appreciate it, but just didn't get the full entertainment? Or are you more on like the 1-star? You didn't like it at all? Let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear you guys' thoughts. For the month of June, I decided to kind of put a poll up on Instagram and on YouTube for what book you guys wanted to read in June. And my 2 options were The Bromance Book Club and The Unhoneymooners. And everybody, well, not everybody, some of you guys wanted The Bromance Book Club, but the majority of people wanted The Unhoneymooners to be June's book. So that is what I decided to choose for June. I'm actually reading The Bromance Book Club right now. It's very cute. I'm very much enjoying it, but I've been dying to read The Unhoneymooners. So that is going to be the June book, and it's going to be a pretty easy, quick read. It's by Christina Lauren. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below all of your guys' thoughts on Lovely War, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!